Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Messages of Hope with me, Fatima Gould, with messages to get you over the walls of life. And today I am here interviewing the one and only Christopher Trotman, who has his hands in so many things to spread hope across Canada and into the world. So welcome, everyone. Christopher. Hello, Christopher.
Hi, Fatima. How are you doing?
I'm good. So I want you to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Sure. Yeah. You know that I am a communications consultant. I went to school for communication studies, studied at the University of Windsor, and did my bachelor's in communications and philosophy. And then went on to do a postgraduate certificate program at Seneca College. And at this stage, I run my own business, Trotman Communications, where we are committed to helping not-for-profit healthcare organizations to communicate more effectively with all of their stakeholders. And even though I have a pretty specific focus on healthcare organizations, I do have the opportunity to work with a wide range of organizations throughout the not-for-profit sector. And that includes healthcare organizations, community hubs, shelter service organizations, and even one organization that is working to transform 100 churches across the country into community hubs. So really excited about the work that I get to do in community and excited for the opportunities that this work has afforded me.
Awesome. And that sounds like a lot of stuff on your plate. I don't know how you are managing all of that, but in what you do, what would you say that hope means to you? What does having hope mean to you?
I think for me, having hope is motivation. I think having hope is believing in a tomorrow that's worth working towards. And that really manifests itself in the kind of organizations that I work with. When you think about a not-for-profit organization, it's an organization that was founded without the view of making profit, because there's a hope that there are solutions that could be found for vulnerable communities. And those solutions may look different depending on the kind of organization you're talking about. But that kind of core idea of hope is what centers so many organizations that I work with. Hope for better healthcare for vulnerable communities, hope for housing for people who live on the streets, or hope to transform churches into usable commodities for community. So for me, hope is all about just motivation and the belief in a better tomorrow.
And then was there something personally that happened to you that made you want to take this on, or is it just a calling that you have? Like, what made you go into the field that you went into, then to be able to, have that motivation and that hope that you bring with you to the organizations that you work with?
I don't know that there was any one thing that I can point to that happened to me. As it turns out, many of my family members actually work in healthcare. My sister is a nurse, and my mom for, I want to say 17 years, worked at North York General Hospital. And she was actually working as the coordinator of the volunteer department at North York General Hospital. So you know how students have to do their 40 hours of volunteer service. My 40 hours was working in a hospital, which was really interesting. So perhaps that may have informed my desire to go into healthcare, seeing what my sister is doing and seeing what my mom is doing. But I think more so than that, I've always loved the not-for-profit sector, but being pragmatic, I would say highly pragmatic, I always had this hesitation to working in the not-for-profit sector because it seemed so unstable. Like the idea of working for an organization that relies on grant money, it just seemed, especially as a communications professional, seemed very unstable. But after learning about the healthcare sector and how relatively stable the funding is for healthcare organizations, I thought if I am going to work in the not-for-profit sector, healthcare is the direction I want to head in, because it will allow me to leverage my communication skills to benefit those people who are vulnerable, while at the same time feeding into that pragmatic nature that I have and a need for kind of some security and stability. So I think it's just my nature led me in this direction naturally.
Oh, that's awesome. So then inside of specifically what you do for organizations, what are some of the things that you're doing to promote hope? If you can pick one specific project, what would you say are some of the things that you're doing to promote hope to that organization and what you do inside of your communication skills?
I would say that I do less to promote hope for the organizations themselves and more to promote hope for the clients and the stakeholders of the organizations. And just to give you an example, I keep coming back to this organization that I'm working with. They're called Trinity Centers Foundation. And they're really committed to transforming, like I mentioned, churches across the country into community hubs. In many of the churches that they're stepping into working with, these are buildings that are old, that may have shrinking congregations, like the number of people that are attending church on a weekly basis are just week after week shrinking or month after month shrinking. And unfortunately, the building is no longer an asset to the organization. It becomes a liability in that case because they can't afford the upkeep or the lease on the building or just the general maintenance. So within my role as their director of stakeholder engagement, I get to communicate about a solution for this issue that many congregations are facing across the country. A solution that would have them be able to stay in the building if they so choose to, while also adapting to the needs of the community and repurposing their building as one that can really serve the entire community's needs.
And I really like that because that's a project that you and I are also working on. And I know how excited it was for my pastor at New Life Covenant Center, shameless plug, Pastor Blake, for you in the church, how excited he was to have somebody to be able to sit down and say, I see your vision. Like the space is huge. I see where we can use it all and have it be for the community. That right there is a sense of hope. Like even people, kids, people who are on the street, the food bank, whatever it is, like that brings what you're bringing inside of your communication skills is a hope not only to the leadership of the church, but the whole community as a whole. Mm-hmm. And to me, that is so exciting to be able to see that bigger picture for someone where they would just see, I just see the four walls, but you help them to see beyond the four walls.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to what I was originally saying about hope with these organizations that we're working with. Prior to stepping in, they may not have seen a future for their building. They may have seen just a liability, like this building is becoming kind of an anchor weighing us down. And by stepping in and showing them possibilities of how the building could be repurposed and how that construction could be financed, we are showing them a future for the structure and a future that is perhaps different than what they saw. And in doing that, we're providing them with hope.
100%. And that ties in to my next question was like sharing that journey from hell to hope. So is there an organization or a church or something that you saw like what you're describing like that? They were like, we're done. We're throwing up our hands. And then you come in. Is there like a finished project where you could take us through like, yeah, from the beginning where they were out, you guys come in, you do a revitalization and boom, they're back up and running?
Yeah, I mean, I'm newer to the organization. Some of the nature of the projects that we take on as an organization vary. So in some cases, it's simply supporting organizations to find a new home. So with one congregation, we are helping them to find a new building that they can take over in the Toronto area, turning that building into a community hub, but also creating a new home for their congregation to use on a weekly basis. And in other cases, we step in to support organizations in completely redeveloping the building and making it more financially sustainable. And such was the case with one project in, I want to say it was in Cambridge. We're kind of wrapping up that project right now, but when we were stepping in, the congregation's building, they weren't quite sure what to do with it. I believe it was a building that was, and I could be getting the details wrong, but I believe it was a building that was either abandoned or going to be abandoned. You know what? Actually, let me take a step back. There's one project in particular that we're working on in Quebec, actually. And I wanted to take a step back because I actually just went to visit the team, the Trinity Centers Foundation team in Quebec last week. And we did a tour of this building. And this is a church that had been abandoned. So it's not being used currently. The city was basically just like, we don't know what to do with this building. It's in the middle of town, which in a lot of towns in Quebec, the towns were actually built around the churches. The churches became the center of town. So when you have this huge structure that is not being used, it becomes a problem, right? You no longer have a gathering space for the community, and you have what is one of the largest structures in the community that's falling into disrepair. And in this case, the town caught wind of the work that we are doing as Trinity Centers Foundation and reached out to us to see, can we help them? And we started creating a vision with them of what this could become. That could become a center of tourism for a town that doesn't receive a lot of tourists. That could potentially become a daycare center for a town that was in desperate need of a daycare center. That could become a gathering space for all of the townspeople. So before, where they saw a dilapidated building that just needed to be torn down, now they see the future of a tourism hub, an educational center, and a community hub for this structure. And this is a project that we're actively working on right now.
100%. Oh, that sounds so good. So what I hear you're saying is 100% this thing was dilapidated, because you're using those words. Dilapidated, yes. Ready to be torn down, of no use, in disrepair. And then you guys come in and you revitalize it. You give it hope. Now it can be a daycare center. There's so much more that you can do with it. So now a community will have a space to come. Like, that is so exciting. Mm-hmm. So my next question to you is, what lessons are you learning out of helping these dilapidated properties? These properties are disappeared that people are seeing no hope in. Are you learning any lessons yourself by being on these projects?
Oh, for sure. I think I'm learning, so many lessons. Number one, just how many stakeholders it takes to bring one of these projects together. I think a lot of people, when they see one of these projects, the part of the intimidation of it is it just takes so many people, right? You need the real estate agents, you need the architectural renderings, you need to do a land assessment, you need to figure out the programming that's going to happen in the space, you need to figure out how it's going to be financed. But outside of that, you also need deep community involvement. Right? There has to be buy-in from the community, both so that you can establish a center that actually meets the needs of community, but also so that the community is on your side when it comes to moving that project forward. And when the community is on your side and you get the city on your side, those opportunities to get funding increase, those opportunities to move like building permits and things like that forward more quickly increase. So I think just the importance of engaging community early and engaging community often when it comes to projects like these, I think was really hammered home. And the importance of rigor in our processes, like ensuring that we have like all of our boxes checked when we're moving forward on projects like these, and looking at how can I apply that sort of rigor to all of the work that I'm doing as well. I think often the stakes don't seem as high when it comes to doing communications work as related to a capital development project. But communications work is important. It informs how people see an organization, and in turn informs what kinds of opportunities an organization has afforded to it. So if I don't have a lot of rigor in terms of ensuring that messaging is right, ensuring the messaging goes out on time, ensuring the project is completed to the best of my ability, then I'm really doing a disservice to the organization's future potential. So just recognizing the importance of having rigor in our processes. And even if we don't have that down pat right now, just constantly be seeking to find that rigor, find that integrity in our processes.
Nice. So that sounds like not only working with these projects, the lessons you've just described that you've learned, that's something you can take in all areas of your
100%,
life.
100%.
All areas. Because I know that you're also working on Calabash. So tell us a little synopsis about Calabash and how you're going to bring that rigor to Calabash.
Yeah, I mean, Calabash is something that we're both still figuring out, right, Fatima? It's a project really that brings together Black, Indigenous, and racialized consultants across a range of practice areas. So whether you are a communications consultant like myself, or a life coach and a processes consultant, or you work on grant writing, we bring together not-for-profit consultants that can help not-for-profit organizations across a broad range of practice areas. And we do this so that we can collaborate, so we can share skills, and so that we have an eye on what's happening across the sector and provide opportunities for us to intervene, not just as consultants, but as individuals that care about what's happening within the sector and how we can impact marginalized communities across Canada by working with these organizations. So we meet on a regular basis to discuss how we are going to move the organization forward, Calabash, and how we can best connect with other organizations that may benefit from our support, how we can put together programs to fulfill on that goal, like moving forward not-for-profit organizations, but also how we can put together different programs and initiatives to benefit consultants in the space and bring more knowledge and expertise to support consultants in building their own practice.
This is all so good what you're doing. And if you could take about from the lessons and from the opportunities that you've had with working with Trinity and working with putting together Calabash, what advice can you give other consultants or other business people to increase their hope? Because it sounds like you could hit roadblock after roadblock after roadblock after roadblock when you said you need the townspeople, you need the politicians, you need the stakeholders, you need, once everybody's on point, but it takes something to get there. And then sometimes I can see that the hope for the project is there, but the bureaucracy and the walls that you hit could just like, mm-hmm. And what advice could you give somebody inside of the business realm to increase their hope when they keep hitting roadblock after roadblock?
Yeah, I think for me, there's a book by Simon Sinek, and I believe it's called Start with the Why. And I think with any project, business, initiative, whatever it is, you want to take a step back before hopping into it and ask that key question, why am I doing this? And really get that down solid, because that becomes the foundation, becomes the floor of what you're doing, right? And when you start hitting those roadblocks and you end up on the floor, if that floor is your why, then you have a reminder as to why you're doing this. And you have that ability to move past those roadblocks because you're grounded in a very solid foundation, right? So I think for anybody, if you're just, and taking it to the business and consulting realm, if you're just doing it to make money and you're not passionate about the work that you're doing, or you're not grounded in the benefit that your work provides to the customers that you are working with, then it's going to be very easy to get stopped. But if you are grounded in that, then you're going to be able to push past those roadblocks and achieve the success that will come with time and with effort and with continual moving forward.
Wow, I like that. So let your why be the foundation. So like when you hit that ground, it's going to be like a springboard to like spring you right back up.
Exactly.
And it reminds you why you're taking the actions of what you're doing. That I
Mm-hmm.
like that. That make your why be the foundation. That springboard. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so the final question that I have for you then is, what call to actions can you give people? Like you look straight into the camera and say to the people who are hitting that bottom and springing back up, like what kind of actions can you give them to take on today? What kind of call to action?
I think the biggest call to action is reach out to your community. I think so much of the reason why I looked to start Calabash, why I went out to folks to start Calabash was like first and foremost the desire to have community, a recognition that I don't want to do this alone. Like even if I'm working as an individual consultant, I want to have people around me that I can rely on, bounce ideas off of, collaborate with, learn from, and Calabash becomes that kind of grounding force to attract people and start building a network of really talented, really amazing individuals. So once you do hit that bottom, or if you are kind of in a bit of a rut or feeling like you are being slowed down by the roadblocks that are coming your way, I would say number one, just reach out to your community, reach out to the people who know you best, who you can rely on for that honest feedback, and just talk to them about what you're struggling with and see what they have to say as well. And then number two, just take stock of what you're doing and why you're doing it. Like even if you didn't establish that why right from the beginning, maybe use this as an opportunity to really look deep and ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is the benefit that this has? How is this going to benefit the people in my life, the people in the world? Ground yourself in something solid.
I love it. I love those call to actions, community and why. That springboard. Love it. So, Christopher, I just want to thank you for joining us today on the Message of Hope. You've given us so much to talk about, so much to ponder right there. And so I just want to thank you for coming on. So, and I just want to say to everybody, just don't forget to click on the button to subscribe, like, comment, and then click on the notification button so you'll know when the next video comes on, the Messages of Hope. Any last words, Christopher?
No, I hope everybody really got something out of our conversation. If you ever want me to talk about anything, I'm at your disposal, Fatima. I think you're amazing, and I'm so happy that we are having this opportunity to work together.
Awesome. And where can we find you? Website, social media handles? Do you have any of those?
Sure. Yeah. You can find me at trotmancommunications.ca. I'm on LinkedIn. I will actually be more actively engaging on social media. So you'll probably see me on Instagram soon enough, and maybe Facebook. We'll see. I'm toying around with what makes the most sense. And then I would encourage everybody to visit calabash.global to check us out. And see what we're up to and see how you can get involved if you're a consultant that's working in the not-for-profit sector, or, a working professional in the for-profit sector that wants to add those skills to organizations working in the not-for-profit sector.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Christopher. And I want everybody to have a super fantabulous day now. Bye.